This is a prepaid phone call from Trix the Rabbit, an inmate at the General Mills Correctional Facility.
From the 30-something Movies podcast, in conjunction with The Big Honkin' Show and Geek Out Loud, it's Serial. One story, told one breakfast at a time. I'm John Reed. For the last year, I've spent every moment of my working day looking into the whereabouts of a cartoon character on one weekday morning. In fact, I should probably clarify, he's not just any cartoon character. He's a cereal mascot. You might have heard of Trix, the bunny from the Trix cereal box.
I'm a rabbit.
That's Trix.
Don't call me a bunny, you know I'm a rabbit.
Isn't it the same thing? I ask him.
No, man, it's not. It's like how people think about you, right? Like, how long do you think I'll last here as the Trix bunny?
I should probably mention that Trix is an inmate at the General Mills Correctional Facility in Golden Valley, Minnesota. He's here because he was convicted in the murder case of Sonny the Cuckoo Bird. I'm not sure he's guilty, though, so I've gone back and pored over the case files. My first stop was the lead investigator on the case, Captain Horatio Magellan Crunch. Now, Captain Crunch is your typical investigator, constantly wearing a Napoleonic naval uniform and a doggedly determined look in his eyes.
I knew he was guilty from day one.
We didn't even doctor his voice. He's always this exuberant.
The biggest lead we had from the beginning was Lucky. We did question the gang of soggies, but they had an airtight alibi.
They were stealing crunch berries.
He and Trix were supposed to be good friends, and Lucky claimed he had been with Trix for most of the morning in question.
In case you're wondering here, Lucky is Lucky the Leprechaun. He's the mascot for the Lucky Charms cereal.
Oh, they're always being after me Lucky Charms. Except for Trix. And he was a wee bit more angry about it all. As part of a nutritious breakfast, we took a ride in my car. Trix didn't tell anybody, but he was secretly an addict. So I scored some pink hearts, orange stars, yellow moons, and then we smoked some green clovers. By the time we were good and high, we finished it off with some blue diamonds and purple horseshoes, and just talked for a while.
Then came what I wasn't sure I wanted to hear.
He was telling me about how much he hated it when the kids put him down and called him a silly rabbit. All the time. I mean, they're after me Lucky Charms all the time, but they never called me names. You can see where after a while it kind of wears on a person.
Was this true? Was this because he was being called names? A silly rabbit? Was Trix's anger fueled by racism? And then out of the blue one day, I got a phone call. I didn't know who it was, and they didn't leave their name. But they gave me an interesting tip.
Follow your nose.
I tried to get him to comment further.
It always knows.
But that was all I could get. I felt like I was back at square one, and I had really just started looking, so it wasn't really that far to go back.
Hey, so I was probably the last person to see Sonny the Cuckoo Bird. We'd hang out from time to time.
This was Sugar Bear. He seemed to be friends with everybody and seemed to know what was going on all over the place.
It wasn't like he was worried about nothing. But he and Trix did have an argument not that long back. I tried to calm everybody down and say, hey, cool it, man. Just chill.
The next time I spoke with Trix on the phone, I asked him about this argument.
Okay, look, I didn't argue with anybody, all right? All I've ever wanted was just some cereal, just some Trix. And the kids, they just kept taking it from me, and...
Yeah, no.
You know, I don't know. I don't think I can talk about this right now. I just don't think...
No, it's okay.
Because it's just making me think about all the fruity flavors.
Totally.
And I just, in here, you just have to hold on to hope and not think too much about the outside. And...
I get it.
I think I have to go. I don't think I can talk about this. I have to.
I got the idea that things weren't great at home for Trix. He'd had a reputation for years as someone who would steal cereal from children. It seemed to me to be a classic case of parental neglect. And what kind of life is that? For a bunny.
I told you I'm a rabbit.
Not to get cereal at home. Then a friend of Trix and Lucky's turned me on to one other person that might have some information on Trix's home life. This was Tony the Tiger, and unlike everybody else who seems to have a penchant for stealing and running away from children trying to steal their cereal, Tony was a motivational life coach. And he really had a different outlook on everything. And so when he knew that things weren't quite right with Trix's family and his home life, he thought that that might have something to do with why he ended up in jail.
Oh, by no means were things great for him at home. I tried to coach him to let go of his anger, to show him he's a tiger inside, but not an angry tiger. He'd get so mad at all the ridicule and everything else he was hearing from all the other people and all the other kids. I told him, let it go, tiger. But Trix, he just couldn't.
Still, I'd spent a long time looking over this case, and there were still things that just didn't add up. Next time on Serial, we'll meet Trix's attorney, Count Chocula, who several people said was a little strange.
Oh, and he'd always be making these outrageous requests, like holding the court dates at night and such.
That's next time on Serial. Serial, the breakfast podcast, has been produced by John Reed, the host of the 30-something Movies podcast. Music from this episode came from the actual Serial podcast, which is awesome, and you should check it out at serialpodcast.org, as well as the artist Steve Combs from the album Theme Songs and Atom Bombs, featured on freemusicarchive.org. You can find the 30-something Movies podcast on Twitter at 30podcast or on Facebook, facebook.com/30podcast.